Hello, everyone. I'm here to give a rundown, brief overview of Exo AI's Fibonacci agent. As an AI-powered financial risk mitigation agent within the Exo Finance Suite to protect financial institutions from fraud, money laundering, and other financial crimes. So I'm going to start off on the dashboard. Dashboard has a few metrics and insights on a system level that show the total transaction value, and volume on in different currencies, fraud detection, fraud transaction rates, blacklist rates, and other metrics as well. We also have insights that can be generated here to explain further each metric, certain metrics that you might see on this page. We also have certain graphs that give macro level view of trends and patterns that cover your system, that have passed through your system over time. This duration can be edited here if you want to see trends over the last month, week, or 2 weeks. That can be shown here. As you can see, this graph shows both transaction volume over time and value over time as well. These metrics are very key because they show behavioral patterns and help you do analysis. They track spending habits, transaction timing, and things like that. Transaction monitoring is done on this platform by the sub-second. Risk scoring as well for each transaction, and I'll go into all of that as we go through the platform. So over here we have the transactions tab. The transactions tab gives a detailed overview of transactions that have been passed through Fibonacci and that have been processed by you. All the transactions processed by your account will be shown over here. You have certain details like date, the transaction ID, the issuer of the transaction, the channel through which it was processed, the risk score, which is generated by a proprietary AI model. I shall explain a bit more about that in a bit later on in the video, and who the transaction has been assigned to in your team. That is in cases of escalation and reviews. This is who this tab is going to show who the next step in your review process has been assigned to, and this also shows the whether the transaction needs review or has been approved. Um, so transaction monitoring on Fibonacci is done, like I said earlier, across different channels. Let's say your financial institution that has different channels and different products. We can cover all of that in this on this platform. There's the risk scoring is done on a dynamic basis. Evolves with new data and new patterns that emerge as transactions pass through the system. You can also configure your risk threshold. Um, on based on your risk appetite as an institution, as a company, and based on what risk threshold you set, that is what's going to inform the system to flag certain transactions based on the risk score the AI model generates. Now, this risk score is calculated by a proprietary AI model that has been trained on historical data. We have a data request. You give us some historical data, so the AI model learns trends based on your specific use case and transactions that have been passed through your system, and then it informs the model on what transactions would seem or may look anomalous and which are very much in line with what you would like to approve. Um, we have real-time decisioning. The approval and rejection and flagging it based on risk levels are done automatically, but the approval and rather the flagging is done automatically, but the approval and rejection can be done by your team based on the risk score, depending on how high or low it is. But we also the model also continuously improves through machine learning algorithms, and it learns new patterns and takes that on board, and then it then leads to a more accurate result and reduces false positives. So for each transaction, you can view more details about each one. As you can see, there's transaction information like the unique ID of the transaction, the amount that has been sent, the risk level, the risk score, and certain things of that nature. We also have insights that are generated by our internal LLM, our large language model, which gives more insights into 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 details about the transaction as well and the risk score that has been assigned to it. We also have details on the transaction like customer ID, customer who has initiated the transaction, some data about them, um, the type of accounts, the country, location, age, and things of that nature. We also have device information about the device in which the transaction was initiated on, and also location information as well about where the transaction was initiated from. So for each transaction, you also have this section here, which is for escalation purposes. So with transaction nodes, if this has, like for example, this transaction needs review and it shall be assigned to a team member, and if a team member wants to hand this off to another team member for review purposes, they can leave notes on here for easy communication, and attachments can also be added on here as well. It can be had on here as well. So we also have tabs like the fraud checks that have been carried out on this transaction. We have blacklist checks. I shall explain more about the blacklist when we get into that tab over here. But for now, we have the blacklist checks um, for both the sender and the receiver, and for devices as well. Devices can be blacklisted as well based on past historical data and behavioral patterns as well. We also have static rules that can be initiated on here. These rules are defined by you based on your criteria, and for each transaction that passes through the system, all the active rules on the platform shall be checked against this transaction as well. We also have activity, the activity tab, which shows a history of processes that the transaction has gone through. So right from its initiation to it being assigned to different team members, all of that can be viewed on here as well. For your team, for the users of Fibonacci on your team as well, you can also escalate from over here from the actions drop down list. You can blacklist the user, device, sender, and the beneficiary as well. And at the end of that, you can also approve and reject transactions based on what you find to be satisfactory to your risk appetite as well. Um, so for the transactions as well, the monitoring is done by behavioral pattern analysis. We track spending habits, transaction timing, frequency patterns, and things of that nature. Like I said, devices and location as well. It monitors patterns and geographic anomalies. If a user, if a customer is used to being transacting from a certain location, and then there's a drastic change in that, the system is going to notice, and it will inform the risk score as well that is eventually calculated and would then help in the flagging of the transaction. Um, so yes, this is a brief overview of the transactions tab. Over here we have the customers tab as well. This is similar to the transactions tab in that um, it shows list of customers that have initiated transactions through your platforms and have passed through Fibonacci. Details like the customer ID, the date of creation, the number of transactions the customer has carried out and that have gone through Fibonacci. And for data privacy reasons, customer names are not available on here. We use customer unique identifiers just to protect certain levels of sensitive data as well. We also have the ability to export this list for reporting purposes. That functionality also exists on the transaction tab. You can export as a CSV file a spreadsheet of all the transaction data, and you can also download reports for tracking and reporting purposes as well if you need to relay certain data or data sets to other team members that are outside of that don't have access to this platform, or if you want to escalate as well to superiors for reporting purposes as well. So for each customer, can also view the details, of the customer's account, the account age, the email address, and other things like that. If the customer has been blacklisted or watch listed, that is also data you can view on here. So you also have a device trail for each customer. So for each time they log in or initiate a transaction on your platform, we we note the device that these actions have been carried out through, and that's also stored as data points on for us, which is will be helpful with the model and anomaly detection as well. We also have a location trail for each customer and certain graphs that show metrics over time, the transaction volume over time for each account, the change in transaction risk. So this shows the trend in the risk score that has been calculated by our AI model for this account and in transactions that have been initiated by this account. The number of transactions over time as well can be shown here. And we also have a transaction relationship graph, which shows the relationship between a transaction and all its beneficiaries over time. So you can see the volume or the frequency with which a customer has transacted with other beneficiaries, and this is what the behavioral graph shows. Like I said, the device and for the device and location trail, this helps monitor patterns and geographic anomalies. We also incorporate KYC data into ongoing risk assessment from the onboarding phase, which continues to be updated as the customer transacts as well. Um, yeah, so that is a brief overview of the customer's details. With the transaction relationship, this is for ease of visual representation of the customer transaction network and just weighted relationships based on transaction frequency and amounts. There's also one very helpful use case for this graph as well is identify suspicious groups of interconnected accounts. So it helps with fraud ring detections and money flow visualization as well. Um, for the customers, you can also view a list of every transaction that they have carried out as well. That's specifically initiated by them. This helps for filtering purposes, and we also have the sanctions that have been given to this account as well. You can also run checks against the sanctions list and to see if a customer falls short or passes or fails the sanctions test as well. So over here, this is where you see a watch list and customers that have been watch listed. The watch list is for the purpose of keeping a closer eye on the transactions that are being initiated by certain customers. If you notice a slight deviation from the regular behavioral patterns, this is where you mark them to keep a closer surveillance on their account activity. Um, yeah, so that's a brief overview of the customers tab. Over here, we have the rules library. Now, aside from the historical data that AI models trained on, another layer of um of risk mitigation we have is the static rules. So for each account, we have, first of all, we have our proprietary list of predefined rules to help speed up your process of setting up your static rules. So we have rules that cover account devices, the amounts that each transaction holds, behavioral patterns, geographic locations, anti-money laundering detection, and the frequency with which transactions are carried out. So this help for easy setup of your set of rules in case you're also trying to figure out what kind of rules would be pertinent to your operation or to your business. To your operation or to your business. That's what this is for. So for instance, if you want to flag every transaction that's over a certain amount within a certain time frame in the day, maybe early hours in the morning or late hours in the night, you can define these rules here. Over here on the instruct Fibonacci tab, aside from the rules library, you can also create your own specific rules as well in natural language. So this is another major AI use case we have. With traditional fraud detection and risk mitigation tools, you will be required to have an engineer on standby, explain the rule, and they'll have to implement the code and the logic. But over here with Fibonacci, we don't. That it wouldn't be necessary because you can define the rules here in natural language, um, and Fibonacci would receive and understand in natural language what you're trying to implement, and it will create and implement the logic on the back end as well. So there's no need for any intervention from a third party. This can be done all seamlessly on this tab. Over here, you also have the instructions, the all instructions tab as well. This shows a list of all instructions that have been defined by on this account. For each for each rule, you can either have them active or disabled. That's what both these tabs are for as well, to show the list of all instructions that are active and instructions that are disabled. And then you can test instructions to see how effective they are and activates if they are disabled, and then deactivates if they are enabled. So that is what that tab is for. Also, with each rule that has been predefined by us, you can also give it an alias for easy identification, because some of the rules are explained in extensively in natural language. And if you want to refer to the rule, for internal communication purposes, you can give it an alias and threshold amounts, and also select the currency as well for which you want this rule to be implemented. This is especially useful if your rule is amount based and you want to give instructions to flag transactions within a certain amount range. That is what this currency filter is here for. So the value proposition over here is like there's a no code interface for rule builders for creating complex detection logic. You can also combine different types of rules that have to do with transaction, the customer or system level conditions as well, or combine into one rule, which can be explained again in natural language and implemented as so as well. Um, you can also there's also the conversational interface for Fibonacci also makes it easier and gives a better user experience as well with Fibonacci when it comes to communicating what it is you want to the software and you want to implement it as well. So over here on the blacklist tab, the blacklist tab essentially is essentially a list of customers and devices and accounts that have been notified and noted down for closer surveillance as well. So these are the individuals or accounts or devices that you want each transaction to be monitored closely. We have our proprietary blacklist, comprehensive of database of sanctions lists and PEP lists and adverse media information that we have curated globally. You also have the ability to upload your personal internal blacklist as well on here. And these checks will be run for extra checks will be run for each customer that's been blacklisted, and for all the customers that are blacklisted, they're still run through this list to ensure that they are not on the list and they don't need that extra screening. We provide real-time continuous updates to our sanctions list and based on regulatory changes as well. The algorithms catch name variations and aliases, and we have real-time screening of all transactions and customer activities as well. Like I said, this also goes for devices and for accounts. So for customers that have different accounts, if you want to just blacklist a certain account and not the customer across the board, that can also be done on here. For the settings, this is where you define your team and roles within your organization. For each team member, you can give them a role, and you can also see when they were added. You can also edit their roles as well on here. So add a team member, you click on here, give the first, last name, the email, and select the role which they occupy. For each role, you can also create them here and give different levels of access. So you can create a role name, and if you want them to be able to approve and recheck transactions, edit, delete rules, remove team members, things of that nature, that can also be done from the settings tab as well. We also have webhooks for notification purposes for communication between our and your systems. The API keys also exist for easy transaction passing between your system and ours, and then communicating back to your backend as well. We have RESTful APIs, standard API endpoints for system integration. Like I said, the webhook supports is for real-time event notifications for your, communication between our system and your external system. And we also have the ability to handle data in bulk, the bandwidth to handle data in bulk as well. And we also offer flexible deployment level deployment models, cloud, on premises, and depending on your preference, all of this can be set up as well. So thank you for listening. This has been a brief run through of the Fibonacci AI agent.